All right, welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into a brand new explainer, and man, we have a truly fascinating document to unpack together. We're going to be impartially analyzing a highly ambitious strategic blueprint put forward by a production company called ABN. And honestly, whether you study media strategy, global communications, or religious outreach, the sheer scale of the architecture they're proposing here is just incredibly interesting to map out. Because this isn't just a standard production schedule. It's a full-blown global storytelling manifesto. So let's get right into the text and see exactly how they're structuring this massive endeavor.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, this striking opening line from the source material instantly sets the massive historical scale of ABN's pitch. I mean, they're definitely not framing their work as just another corporate rollout or a typical media launch, right? By deliberately invoking the concept of a historic move, they're anchoring their upcoming projects in this grand framework of divine inspiration and expansive legacy. It's a really bold rhetorical choice. It tells us exactly how high they're setting the stakes here. They are literally aiming for historical significance from day one.
Section 1. A generational seed.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the objective contrast between what a casual observer might assume this project is versus ABN's actual stated goals. If you look on the left side, you'll see what they are explicitly trying to avoid. They're saying their upcoming feature film is way more than just a singular media production, and its purpose goes far beyond mere entertainment. Instead, look over at the right side. They are aiming to engineer a complete global storytelling ecosystem made entirely of kingdom-centered media. So, their stated intention is to create content that unveils truth, provokes spiritual reflection, and builds deep faith. They're essentially tossing out the traditional Hollywood model of isolated entertainment in favor of this highly interconnected, purpose-driven ecosystem.
And to explain how they actually get from a single movie to that vast ecosystem, ABN uses a really vivid metaphor. They call it planting a generational seed. So the source material describes this initial film not as the final product, but as the catalyst. It's kind of like planting an acorn to grow a forest. The idea is that this one foundational piece of media is designed to multiply. It's embedded with what they call infinite potential to grow into a massive, comprehensive, multi-platform library. They are approaching this very first project as the core DNA that's going to dictate the shape, the quality, and the reach of everything that grows out of it for generations to come.
Moving on to Section 2, the modern Roman road. So, how do they plan to actually spread this media globally? And this brilliantly illustrates their core strategy. The source connects the historical infrastructure of the ancient Roman roads, which, were physically built to connect the ancient world and historically helped spread early Christianity incredibly fast, with today's modern digital distribution networks. ABN states that technology is advancing exponentially right now, and they're viewing this tech boom not as a disruption, but as their very own Roman road. It's an avenue to produce and deploy elite media on a scale that was just completely unimaginable before. They are essentially looking to pave a digital highway for their message.
And to build that digital highway, they are establishing specific architectural capabilities from day one. They aren't waiting until the film is finished to figure out how to export it. This stuff is baked right into the foundation. Step 1 is seamless international translation, which ensures the core narrative translates accurately across different cultures. Step 2 is elite dubbing. This means they are demanding extremely high-fidelity audio localization so the emotional resonance of the story isn't lost in translation. And Step 3 is the global distribution network itself. By engineering all three of these steps simultaneously, they're making absolutely sure their media crosses language barriers instantly, rather than treating it as some sort of afterthought.
But hold on a second. As we look at all this exponential technology and global distribution architecture, the source document introduces a really critical counterbalance. Because it is vital to note that despite this heavy emphasis on advanced tech, the absolute heart of their mission remains grounded in three spiritual pillars: prayer, people, and the Holy Spirit. This shows us that they view technology strictly as a tool, just a vehicle for the message, while the actual fuel and direction of the whole initiative remain entirely rooted in their core spiritual practices and the human communities they serve.
Which brings us to Section 3, the permanent engine. Let's move to and see how this builds into the intended long-term structural impact of ABN's inaugural film. To understand how this builds a continuous framework for the future, we really have to look at these 4 permanent resources. First, it establishes an immutable infrastructure, basically a solid baseline that cannot be undone. Second, it secures a world-class standard of storytelling, which sets a really high-quality benchmark for all their future projects. Third, it creates scalable production systems, meaning the whole workflow can be expanded super efficiently. And finally, it builds permanent digital resources. So, this single project is bearing the weight of establishing the entire future pipeline for their Kingdom Media.
And I think this quote from the text perfectly encapsulates that huge ambition. We are not executing a single project and stopping. We are building a permanent engine that fuels a continuous movement. They are communicating a massive shift in momentum here. It's like the difference between tossing a single rock into a pond versus building an entire wave pool. They want their initial effort to construct a self-sustaining machine that continuously generates and distributes this media, completely eliminating the need to rebuild from scratch every single time.
Finally, Section 4, the Global Invitation.
This brings us to the final section of the source material, where the manifesto actually pivots. It turns into a direct pitch to the people who can help them build this engine. So, the crucial point is that this document is ultimately an invitation, addressed to esteemed directors, visionary partners, and major donors. And they're asking for strategic support to achieve these 3 ultimate goals: powerfully proclaim the gospel, fortify the global church, and equip believers across the earth. Notice how none of these goals are strictly financial or box office oriented. The strategic support is meant to anchor a long-term ministry architecture that bypasses traditional geographic and language limitations to achieve these specific worldwide spiritual outcomes.
And the manifesto concludes with this sweeping, definitive vision: every nation, every tribe, every tongue. It's an incredibly powerful summary of their ultimate reach. ABN's goal is that one eternal story is now fully equipped to speak through many global languages to transform every single generation. It perfectly ties together their strategy of using modern, scalable tech, the elite dubbing, the international translation, with their ancient foundational message. It really is a vision of total global saturation. Which leaves us with this final, truly fascinating question to ponder. Can exponential technology permanently change how ancient faith is spread? ABN certainly believes it can, and they're actively building the infrastructure to try and prove it. Whether you are looking at this from a logistical, technological, or sociological perspective, the merging of modern, scalable tech with ancient religious endeavors is absolutely a dynamic space to watch. It forces us to ask how the mediums we are building today will shape the transmission of humanity's oldest beliefs tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep analyzing the structures around you, and I'll catch you in the next one.